process. We'll first see what we have done now for triggering a BPM process. So till now, what we have done, we have seen how a process can be triggered through an AJAX service, right? Where we have seen that we created one AJAX service and we added some code start process by name, and the AJAX service triggered the BPM process. We saw this. What is the second one we have seen? We are seeing currently something called startable service, where a human service, when exposed as a startable service, it is visible in the process portal. And whenever I click on that link of the human service, it will open. I will have the UI. Whenever I fill up that UI or fill up that coach with all the details, whenever I click on submit, again there would be a script called start process by name, which would again trigger the BPM process. Okay, we haven't seen this part. We have created a startable service. We have created a BPM process.
Rahul, your voice is fluctuating.
This is one. Fluctuating. Is it for everyone?
Yes, Rahul.
Yes,
Yes,
Rahul.
yes, Rahul. Yes, Rahul. Yes, Rahul.
Is it fine now?
Yes,
Yes,
Rahul.
Rahul.
Yes, Rahul.
Okay. Okay. So we have seen AJAX service, how we can trigger a process from the AJAX service. Startable service we are seeing presently, how we can trigger a BPM process. Going ahead, we'll see few more like web service, how we can trigger a BPM process through a web service, and the other is UCA, how we can trigger a BPM process through UCA. UCA is nothing but an undercover agent. So whenever we will do a session on the events, that time we'll discuss on this UCA. Okay, so these two things we'll see in future. Okay, so now we'll go to our implementation, where we first today we are going to create that personal loan process, and the personal loan process will have multiple approvals. Okay, so let's discuss about the different levels of approval for this personal loan process. I would not call this as a personal loan process, rather I would call this as a loan process, right? Because yesterday we implemented something in the drop down called either it can be a personal loan, it can also be a car loan, right? So let's implement this as a loan process. And for this loan process, we will have multiple approvals. So the first level of approval would be verification team. Now this team, guys, they will verify the details that the customer has submitted, right? So in our startable service, what we were doing, we were, it seems like it's a customer. So customer is filling up all his details. And whenever he clicks on submit, right, what is happening? Whenever he clicks on submit, the process is getting triggered. And when the process is getting triggered, the first team, verification team, gets all the details. A UI opens in read-only mode. The customer would be the verification team. They would be able to see all those details, and then there would be a button called proceed. Okay, if he clicks on proceed, it will move to the next level. Then there is one more button called reject. If he clicks on reject, then that process will be closed then and there. Okay, number one. Now, in case if the verification team member clicks on proceed, it goes to the next level, that is residence and office verification team. Okay, so there would be a residence and office verification team who would have a UI or who would have a coach where they would fill up that whether the residence verification and the office verification is successful or not. So few details will be there which he needs to fill up. Okay, so maybe for how long the customer is working in that office, for how long the customer is staying in that residence, is there a permanent residence, is it it's not a permanent residence. So all these details will have to fill, and that needs to be filled up by the verification team. And after that has been filled up, again there would be one button only, that would be proceed. No rejection from here. There will be no rejection from here. Yes, the verification team will have some remarks text area, okay, where they can add their remarks, that whether this customer, if he finds that the customer is not right, maybe some details are not correct, maybe they got some negative feedback while doing the verification, so they can put all those details in the text area called remarks, and then they have to click on proceed. Now after clicking on proceed, then comes the next level, that is the underwriter. Now this underwriter, he would either approve or reject the loan. Okay, so whatever details he has sent, he will see all these details, whatever has been filled up by the employee, whatever has been filled up by the verification. So everything will be visible to him, to the underwriter. Yes, everything will be in read only mode. That is also correct. He will not be able to edit any details. And seeing all these details, the underwriter would either approve or reject the loan application. Okay, so it's a big implementation. It's not a very simple implementation that we have done till now. So this will have multiple layouts. Okay, multiple approval levels are there, and you can understand that for, say for example, in the first level, proceed will have a different functionality and reject will have a different functionality. Okay, so all these things will be defined, right? Any questions on the requirement? Any doubts on the requirement you can discuss? Okay, so we don't have any
Rahul,
doubts. Yes. Yeah.
verification team in the first one, what they will verify and from where they will verify the data?
So this is a process that we have to create. So the data will come from the startable service, which we have already defined yesterday. The same details the verification team will see in its own coach, and considering those details whether they are legitimate or not, then he or she would either click on proceed or he or she can click on reject as well. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let's create the process. So we'll first create the process, and then we'll again go back to the startable service, right? We have to add a script which would trigger this process. Okay, so first we will create a process. I would give a name loan application process. So I click on finish. This would create this process. So we have three different approval levels. So which means we'll have three different teams, three different lanes, right? So first lane, I will define this as the verification team. Okay. And I'll again drag and drop few more lanes. Okay, so I would name this as office and residence verification team. Then I would add the last lane, that would be
Underwriter.
underwriter. Yes. So 3 lanes are ready. So we have also have a system lane. In case if we add a system task, we can add it here. Now verification team. So first we'll just simply drag the user tasks. Okay, we'll complete the design first, and then we'll start designing the human services going ahead. Okay, so coming to this user task, we'll first name it as verification agency task. Okay, that's our first user task. Second would be, again, I'll drag one more user task. I would give a name office and residence verification task. And finally, so this is the process that I have created here, and this has got 3 different tasks, right? So one is the verification agency task, second is the office and residence verification task, and third is the underwriter. Okay, so we have 3 different tasks over here, and now I am going to add the sequence flows. Okay, so while implement this process, we will also learn one more thing, that is gateways. Okay, so if we have time today itself, we are going to implement the gateways thing. The reason, because if you see the requirement here, the verification team, if they click on proceeds, then it will move forward. If they click on reject, this would complete the process over there itself, right? So which means that after this verification agency task, I'll have some gateway over here, and in that gateway I will check if it comes as proceed, I'll move forward to this verification, else I will just directly connect it to the end event. Okay, that would end the process, right? So this is implementation will be, but for that we have to know gateways, the different types of gateways that can be implemented in the process layer. And for this implementation, what type of gateway is required, so all these things we have to know. Okay, so process is ready for the time. So we'll go to variables. I have to create an input variable over here. Why do I need to create an input variable? Because I have a startable service, and there I have to add a script. I would be using start process by name API to pass the input from that startable service to this process, right? So for this, I need to have an input variable in this process. So I will add an input called customer information, and this will be binded with customer information business object, which we created yesterday. And now we'll go back to our startable service. I will change this name because again, this is not a personal loan process, but it's a loan process. So how to change a name? So from the web designer, if you want to change the name of any artifact, you see next to every artifact, there is this arrow sign, right? So if I want to rename this, or if I want to duplicate this or delete this human service, then you have to click on this arrow. You get all these options. I want to rename this. So trigger loan process. I click on finish. So this human service also has been now renamed. So Now, before this end event, I have to add a script over here, which would trigger this BPD, right? Trigger that process which we have created. So for this, I have to add the script over here, this client side script. Just a moment. So here, this sequence flow, I have to add this very carefully, and post adding, I have to check in this gateway if anything has changed in the condition. Yes, you see, yesterday also I said that if you remove something, then again you have to add the condition. So this would go to, or rather, my default flow would be to this client side script, and it will go to the stay on in case my validation success is false, right? Which is correct. I will rename this client side script to trigger loan process. Okay, so now I'm going to add my code over here. So can someone help me? What code do I need to write?
Creating a map object.
Okay, so I have to create a map object. Okay, so now map object is a client side script, right?
New keyword. Yes.
This is a client side script. Okay, wait. This cannot be implemented in this way. Just a moment. Trigger loan process. Service flow. So what I'm doing, guys, so now map object, we cannot write the code in this way, right? In the client side scripting, server side script syntax will not work. Now I cannot, now if I have to create a map object again, it's better if you write the entire thing instead of using curly braces, right? So better what we do, we will create a service flow. In that service flow, we'll have a server script. So we are going to write our code over there, and that service, we will map it over here. Instead of this script, I'm going to map this over here. Okay. So we'll remove this script. Instead, I'm going to use this service flow. Okay. So I'm going to create a new service flow here. So this would be trigger.
Rahul, from where
No.
did you get this service from? Like from this activity, the right side
Yes.
column, right?
Yes, I'll show it once again. Yeah. So I got it from here, right hand side palette. The third option says service. So I dragged it. So this is when you can add this service, when you add this component, what you can do, you can map any service flow with this implementation. Okay. So for example, tomorrow I implement something, say after this course is completed, I want to have a service which would insert all these details to database, right? So for that, what I can do, I can have a service flow over here, and in this service flow, I would implement the query and all those operations, whatever is required. And whenever the coach is completed, whenever the token reaches at this point, it would update all the details to the database. Okay. So this way you can implement a service flow in a human service. Now, similarly, for our implementation also, we need some code which is not supported in client side script. So like yesterday, Kirtana said that in case of logs, we can't add the logs in the client side scripts. What we do, we add a service flow, and going inside the service flow, I can add the logs over there. Okay. So this is my service trigger loan application. I'll now go inside the service, and here I would define that code which we're talking about, right? Now I'll just go back once again to the human service. Now, guys, this service flow needs an input, right? What would be that input? Customer information would be that input, right? Because from that service flow, I have to trigger the BPM process, right? So this needs to be passed into that service flow. So what we will do, we'll go back to the service flow, trigger loan application, we'll come to variables, and we'll create an input variable called customer information. I'll save it. I'll come back to the diagram, and I just need a server script over here so that I can write my code, the map object and everything. I can write it over here. Trigger process. So here I would be writing my code. So where input is equal to new pw dot
object list of
map, right? So what we will do, we have to pass this data, right, where to the process, and in the process we have already created an input variable called customer information, right? So I'll just copy this down because I would be needing it. So I'll go back to the service flow once again. And what would be the next line?
tw dot
tw dot
tw dot
Using
come
put
again?
method.
Yeah, so that is input dot put, right?
Put. Yes.
the name of the variable and the variable created by the
So first would be tell me if I'm correct or wrong.
information. Yeah.
Correct. Rahul.
yes.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Are you sure this is correct?
Jackson.
Yes, Rahul.
Variable.
So this location is the variable over here and over there. That's fine.
Variable of Jackson.
That's correct. Okay, so input dot put, through which we will pass this data. Then we will have the instance ID, right? pw dot system start process by name. What is the name of the process? Loan application process. I'll just copy this name.
Input. Not ready.
Okay. Now, okay, this is fine. Now, I was just thinking that this instance ID, yesterday we discussed, right? This instance ID, whatever is getting created. Now, this instance ID, in this, if you see this customer information, we have something called loan application number, right? And if you remember, yesterday we were discussing that this instance ID, we are going to store it inside this loan application number, considering for each new instance, I will have a new instance ID as well, which will consider as a loan application number for every identical customer, right? So this storing of instance ID into loan application number, I was thinking whether if you can do it over here, I mean in this service flow, but then I thought that we cannot do it. The reason being, we are already passing this customer information over here, and then we are using the same. I'm passing this data in line number 3 using start process by name. So again, we cannot change it. So if I have to populate the instance ID in the loan application number, that I will be doing in the process layer itself. Okay. So how I can do it? Instead of having this as the first activity, I can have a script in a system lane, which when this process will be triggered in that script, I would populate the instance ID of this process where into the loan application number. Okay, so we'll do that. But before, let's complete this change. I'll save it. Where input output, where instance ID. Okay. Okay. Now this service, which we had mapped over here, guys, we had created some input parameter. So which means it will have some data mapping, right? So this human service, this standalone human service or startable service, which we have created, we are populating the customer information. So we have to pass that into the service flow so that the service flow can trigger the process and also can pass the same data to the process layer. Okay, so let's see. We'll trigger this service now from process portal, and we'll see whether our process loan application process is also getting triggered or not. Okay. Any questions till now on the implementation? Am I audible clearly now? Is my voice
Yes,
clear?
Rahul.
Yes,
Yes,
Rahul, you're
Rahul.
clear.
Okay. Any doubts, guys? We are good.
Rahul, can you explain that system implementation again? The thing you were saying in there.
Yeah. Now, what I was thinking that over here, if you see our customer information business object, we have something called loan application number. And what I said yesterday is that this loan application number, we need to populate the instance ID. Whenever we'll trigger the process, an instance ID will be created, and that instance ID will put inside the loan application number, right? Now, what I was thinking is, can we populate the loan application number with the instance ID in the same service flow or not? So the answer is no. We cannot do it.
Yeah.
Because in the second line, we are passing the customer information, right? And at this point, we haven't yet triggered the process. So we are not aware of the instance ID,
Yes.
right? So in line number 3, we will be aware of the instance ID, but by this time, we have already passed this information to the process,
Yes.
right? So instead of populating the instance ID in the loan application number over here, we are going to populate the loan application number in the process. Okay. So whenever this process will be triggered, I will have my first activity in a system lane, which would be a script.
Okay.
And this script is going to populate the loan application number.
Okay.
Just a moment. So I'll just rename this as populate loan, or not populate, let me give a name, say generate loan application number. And after that, what we can do, I'll go to the script and I can populate loan application number with tw.system dot current process instance dot id. So this would give me system variable, which would always give you the instance ID of this process. Whenever a process is triggered through the system variable, you can always get the instance ID of an instance. Okay. Now, you see, I did not instantiate the customer information business object. I directly mapped the loan application number with the instance ID. So is this possible? If this is possible, how it is possible?
Yes, because we have to instantiate only if we are using list or something like that.
No.
It is already passing, it is already getting from the service.
Correct.
Ajax service.
So by the time this process would receive, by the time the script is created, which means the process will already it has the data in
Rahul,
this customer information. Yes.
Rahul, can you repeat the system task once?
Can I repeat the?
Yes. System task.
Yeah, I'll repeat that. Let me complete this one. So
Okay.
by the time this process will trigger, right, the first script, it will already have all these details ready. So only loan application number is not there. So which means this object is already instantiated where? In the UI, in the BPM coach, in the startable service, where the end user is filling up all the details. As soon as an end user fills up all the details in the UI, the object gets initiated over there itself, right? So we don't have to initialize again. If you initialize it over here, do you know what is the issue? There can be a big issue. What is that issue? If I initialize this customer information over here, whatever details were coming to me, I will once again reinitialize it and everything will be lost. Okay. So be very careful whenever we are implementing things. So already customer information is filled up with all the details. Only loan application number we have to populate over here with this instance ID. Now, if I initialize it over here in the first line, then what will happen? Whatever details were already stored in this object, everything will be gone. Everything will be erased. Okay. So that's the reason we will just populate the instance ID to this loan application number. Yes. Any other question or doubts?
No, Rahul.
Nothing, Rahul.
Rahul, when we assign values in the business in the Ajax service, so the first step which we did was we instantiated this business object, right? So that is a mandatory step to access all its parameters.
Ajax service you're talking about?
No, like in this case, the business object parameters, we first used it in the Ajax service. So
Ajax
instantiating the business object is the mandatory step.
Ajax service, really, did we use an Ajax service for this?
No, sorry.
It was a human service only.
Sorry.
Startable human service. Yes.
Can you go to the script for populate it?
Here we are initializing. Why? Because at this point, don't have the customer information ready. So customer information is null at this point. I just added the variable, and this is my first script of this human service where I don't have anything on the customer information. Now I felt that for the customer information, I have a parameter called loan tenure, and there is one more called type of loan, which I need to populate from before in the script, right? So that's the reason I had to initialize this. Now just think, if there was no parameter which I had to initialize from before, then I wouldn't have written this code at all. I would have directly gone to the coach, added all the coach views and mapped all the parameters. That would have still worked. So since we have to populate, since we have some drop down which needs to be populated from before, before the coach is loading. That's the reason I'm adding a script, and in the script I'm initializing the business object.
Yes,
Got it?
yes sir. And Rahul, can you go to
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
trigger loan process, Ajax service?
Again, Ajax service flow.
Yeah, service. So here the map is a inbuilt business object, right?
Map is an inbuilt business object.
So this put method is this belongs to the map business object, one of the parameters.
Correct. Correct.
And the start process by name and map, does it have any relation or they're separate entities?
Yes, it has relation. I mean, we can trigger a process only using map object input. We cannot trigger a BPM process without a map object. I mean, if you're using start process by name, then
Mhm.
it takes two mandatory parameters. One is the name of the process, and one is the object which you created where the data is there, where the data is available. So without line number 1 and 2, we cannot implement line number 3.
Mm.
So like you can call it like start process by name is a subset of map, or this is a different API,
It's a different API. It's not a subset. So don't go
but
into
it
all those
is
terms.
dependent on the map object
It's
for
depend,
the second
of
parameter.
course.
Okay.
Yes, start process by name cannot be triggered or cannot be if I'm not using a map object.
Mhm. Okay, Rahul.
Rahul, can you go to the loan application process?
Mhm.
Can you show me the flow chart?
Just a moment.
Okay, Rahul, got it, got it.
So this is nothing. Whatever we have implemented for this process, we haven't implemented any human service till now. Okay, so that we need to implement. But before that, I have to show you what is a gateway and how a gateway can be implemented. Okay, so one more thing. Now this trigger loan application service flow, which we created, right? Now this we do not need to use it as an Ajax service. So I can also use it as an Ajax, or I can also use it as an integration service. Doesn't really matter. Okay, because start process by name is an API which we can use not only in an Ajax service, but you can use it at anywhere, even in your process layer also. If you drag and drop a service over there also, you can write the start process by name API. Okay, no issues will happen due to that. So either in Ajax service or it's a non-Ajax service, doesn't really matter. But yes, our implementation we did on the last day, that implementation was a bit different. I explained that for this Ajax which we implemented, tree leaf application process, this Ajax will be called from outside. Some external application will call this Ajax service, which would trigger the BPM process. So this flow can be achieved only through an Ajax service. Okay, I cannot implement this using an integration service. So we need to know the difference when to use an Ajax service and when not to use a non-Ajax service. Okay, are we clear about this concepts, guys? When to use trigger leave application and why I was using this last.
Yes, Rahul.
Okay. 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 Then now we'll go to the process portal. Just copy this thing. Hmm. So since I'm logged in ready with Rahul, that's the reason it took me directly. Okay. So I use the my worklist thing. This is much better. Okay. Coming to the startable service, if you see here, if I go below, you have this trigger loan process, guys. You see the second option, trigger loan process. I will click on it. So this would open the UI, which would have all these details, customer ID, customer account number, and everything. We need to fill up all these details, and then we'll click on apply. So that's this thing that you are a customer and you're filling up all these details. Okay. And post filling up all these details, post submitting the loan application which you submitted, it will trigger the process of the bank. Just consider, say, we have so much of so many websites like Bank Bazaar, Policy Bazaar, and so many things, right? So you have a UI over there where you fill up your details. Whenever you click on submit, you get a message, right? That the bank would call you back in the 4 to 5 working days, something like this pops. So it's similar kind of thing. We have a portal where I'm filling up all the details from the bank, and when I submit this, the bank will receive a notification and will also trigger the process, the loan application process at their end. Okay, so I'll start filling up this. So customer ID, customer name, customer account number, address line 1, so Pune, Walker, pin code is 411057. Type of loans is car loan. Loan tenure will be say 3 years. Loan amount say will be 3 lakhs. And interest is 7% is the loan interest. Contact number is 678505642. Out.com. All right. So these are the few details which I want to submit. So when I click on apply, this loan process, what happened? Okay, so it's completed. Okay, so loan process is completed. Now the loan application process also should be triggered, right? So I can see this loan application is actually triggered, but somehow it is in the middle. I can see October 15th. This is the time. This is the due date actually. So again, task receive date should come first. Okay, so task receive date should come first, and you can actually do some sorting also. You see, sort ascending, or maybe sort descending would do remove sort. Okay, task subject. I was just thinking if this could have been done in a better way. So this is the instance, basically this verification agency, which I can understand. But if it can be sorted, that whatever is created right now will be at the top. Okay, that is what I was thinking. So, but I believe this doesn't work somehow.
Rahul, try with task due date once.
Task due date. Start due date, still it worked. It is at the top, I can see. Only application process. This is a service. Okay, why it is coming here? Okay, we'll see all these things. Trigger leave application was an Ajax service. So it is coming over here. Okay, we'll check this later. So here is the verification agency task, which I can see it is created. The first task has been triggered, and I can do. This is a development environment. So what is the instance ID? Let me just see that. 203 is the instance ID. I just want to see whether the loan application number has been populated correctly with the instance ID or not. Okay, that is what I want to see. So I'll be inspector 203. This is the loan application process that has been triggered. Let's see whether the data has been populated correctly. Why I'm seeing it from here? Because till now we haven't created any kind of any coach, we haven't created any human service, we have not created till now, right? So loan application number has come, but yes, we will be working on this where we have to remove this 2072. Okay, that's a very simple JavaScript we can use, that before dot whatever is there that needs to be removed, we'll just keep 203 as a loan application number. Okay, this will be completing tomorrow, this process. Okay, we'll start implementing a layout. So if I just go back to the process, so here we need to create a layout which would be a common layout for all these user tasks. Okay, so again the same thing which we have done for the leave application, something like that. So just think, this will have a layout, this will have a separate layout. Okay, and the underwriter human service which we are going to create, it will have both these layouts, right? Because underwriter needs to see both these details, correct? So I'm going to create a layout for this human service which we have to map over here. Similarly, I'm going to create a coach view for this human service, and this underwriter task, this underwriter human service which we are going to implement, its coach will have both these layouts. Okay, so that the underwriter can see both these details, and considering that, he would either approve or reject the loan. Okay, so this will implement tomorrow. We have some time now. We'll discuss on the doubts, and I'll also start discussing on the gateways. Okay, so tomorrow we'll finish the gateways first, and then we'll start implementing this, because without gateways we cannot implement this. Because we discussed about our requirement over here, as I said you, for this details, like if the verification team clicks on proceed, it will move forward. If he or she rejects it, it will complete the loan process at that point only, right? So for implementing all these things, we need to understand gateways. So we'll start with gateway day, and tomorrow when we start our session, we'll complete gateways and then we'll proceed with the loan application. Okay, any questions, any doubts, not only for today's session, for any sessions whatever we have done till now?
Rahul, I have a doubt regarding process portal. I don't know why there's so many tasks created. Like there are more than 500 tasks created in the process portal.
For you, in
Yes,
your process
Rahul.
portal?
Yes, Rahul.
Yeah, so that is
Even for
because,
me, Rahul.
yeah, that is because
Same
you are
Rahul.
using the, yeah, because you guys are using the BAW on trial, right? Now this BAW
Yeah.
on trial is being used by everyone across the globe. And
Okay.
if you see, whenever you are creating any process, whenever you're having a lane, over there we have mapped that called all users. Now you also fall in that team. So whenever you open the process portal, even with your credentials, since you are part of the all users, so whatever tasks are getting created, irrespective of the fact that it belongs to you or not, still you are able to see that task over there in your portal.
Okay.
Okay, that is a problem with this BED on trial. So there are few limitations. Like even you cannot create a user from the process admin. You don't have full privilege to access the process
Yes.
admin. Okay, so all these limitations are there. So any luck on the installation?
Not yet,
Like,
Rahul.
so admin access is still required. Okay.
Yes, Rahul.
So you guys can also install this in your personal system if you have